Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? My name is Dean, and I'm one of the founders of Elemental Music. And I'm here with my good friend, and then he is the A&R for our label. And this is our very first podcast, so we haven't got a clue what we're doing. We've just hit
like the
record.
festival and events.
Yeah, we've got a rough idea of what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about. So basically, the whole point of this podcast and lots of content, we're going to be doing a YouTube series. We're going to be doing stuff across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook, as well as some longer form content like this in the form of podcast, and we're also going to be doing some behind the scenes stuff on YouTube. And the whole point is to give you a full insight into our journey of running our festival in 2026. This is our second year of running our own festival, and we've been involved in working at festivals and running festival stages before for about 4 or 5 years now, and we were running normal events for a couple of years before that, pretty much into COVID. So we want to give you a bit of an insight into how we started, how we got to this point, a little bit more about us. We'd love to know a bit more about Lukey, and then we might get some special guests on at some point who have been a part of our journey or who are involved in the events, festival, record label world as well, and have a chat with them. But hopefully this gives you a bit more of an insight into us, how we operate, how we put a festival on, and we hope you find it interesting.
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm all right. I'm good. I think loads of people ask all the time about putting events on and stuff, so I think it's been quite interesting to find out about that, and also be interested to find out how to put on like a boutique festival that you have done the last couple of years. And I think being honest and open about it, because it's not been easy, mate, is it?
It hasn't been easy. No, it's been, do you know what? It's been one of the most fun things we've done, I've ever done in my life doing this. To be honest, like most of us, been absolutely winging it since day one. I think the background of my job before and what was involved in that helps a lot.
What did you do before then? Tell everyone what you did before.
I was a project manager in construction for 15 years. I started on site pretty quickly, worked my way up to site managing and then project managing. So there's a lot of relatable things in that job to what I do now. Ultimately, when you think about setting up a festival site, it's the same as setting up a big building site. I used to work on quite big commercial projects. And ultimately, the thing is, you need the site to be secure. You need the site to be safe. You need the right security in place. You need to have power. You need to have water. You need to have toilets.
You need to be able to put fences up, which I couldn't do, having a desk job.
Fencing up. Yeah, we'll get to that story. Ricky was tried and very quickly taken off of fencing duty last year. But that's a story for another day. We just sent him on the beer runs after that.
Good at that.
So that was my job in a previous life. Gradually over the time of working in music, the two jobs merged, and I've been doing solely music in a variety of forms for, I think, 4 years now. Absolutely.
That's what people forget, though, because I remember when I started doing this again, because I've been doing this a few years now, and it was sort of like 5 years ago, I started Undone again.
Yeah.
There's the only time I learned, actually, the stuff you learn in your day job, you could really transfer into music. And people just see it as a hobby, but actually, if you want to do it properly, you need to transfer both what you learn from the day job, as people call it. There's not many people now. I've even seen quite some big DJs now today that they stop playing because they want to concentrate on family. It's hard. It's really hard.
I think a lot of people forget or don't even think about the fact that whether you're just an artist or whether you're running a brand or whether you're a producer, a DJ, I think they forget the basic principle of you're a business. You've got to set yourself up like a business from the start. If you're just going out and thinking that you're going to go and play big shows and that you're going to make a couple of records and suddenly you're going to make it massive and it's all going to fall into place, the reality of that happening is not in a million years.
Very rare in it. Like the one-off, one-hit wonders that you get now is very, very rare, like really, really rare. Most people are having 30, 35 releases before even getting decent gigs.
And the thing is...
And they have to be quite big releases as well to do that.
Actually, when you get these big hits, and I was speaking about someone the other day, when you get these big hits and people that suddenly come out of nowhere, normally if you dig into them, there's a hell of a lot gone on behind the scenes, years and years. And I talked about Jordan Peake in his example. Obviously, front to back last year went absolutely massive and probably changed Jordan's life. We actually met Jordan about a year before at Sam Devine was running a festival stage, and we had a release on her label. So we went there to film some content backstage with Sam. We weren't playing, but just to hang out, film some content, get to know the guys a bit better. Sam and Matt Cash Only, her husband. We knew Matt because he'd played at Elemental Festival that year. Not Element, it wasn't at the time, it was Oxford Festival, but we'll get into that story. And we had a lovely chat with Jordan. Jordan was a fascinating character, so obsessed with the music and obsessed with the process. And if you go back through his back catalogue, I mean, he was releasing on
He
labels
had a
like,
really long break, didn't he? He had a really
he had
long
a really
break.
long break, and I know he spoke about it a bit on podcasts as to why, but he was releasing on labels like Saved 10 years ago. I actually went through the Saved back catalogue a few months ago, digging through old releases because they're one of our favourite labels. And I was quite surprised how far back he pops up in their catalogue as releasing
Yeah, he's
music.
been out for
But to the
years.
outside world, you look at him last year, and you think he's come out of nowhere. And if you're not within the music scene or you're not digging back into what people have done before, it does look on the surface like they've come out of nowhere, had a hit, and suddenly they're away.
That links nicely into the history of Elemental then, because like you don't just run a festival in the first year, do you? I mean, it's been
No,
quite
absolutely not.
opportunistic how you've done it, I've got to say. And actually, there's been loads of challenges. I think your missus said the other day how hard like how many failures there could have been. But because of your tenacity, you've kept going. I think that's the most important thing. But I think if we go through the plotted history of Elemental, it would be quite helpful for everyone. And then we could talk about where we are with the current festival. Would be quite good, I
Yeah,
think.
so Elemental started, there was a group of us back, I think it was it was sort of that mid-COVID where venues were opening and closing. There was a handful of us who were DJing. There was myself, there was Greg, who is my partner in crime in Deep Fiction, and there was Joe, who obviously you know, Joe Williams, again DJs, and he also does the design for Elemental now. So me and Joe actually sat down, I was living in a flat at the time, and me and Joe sat down and was like, right, we're not getting any gigs really, or not many, and it's really hard to get those gigs. You're having to knock down doors, and you are having to turn up at events. You're having to network left, right, and centre. You're getting rubbish sets in back rooms, and although that's part of the process, I said, why don't we just do our own thing and start our own little events brand? Obviously, Joe has got a graphic design background and web design background, so that helps having him on board to start with, from the sense of branding it up, creating a logo, creating artwork, things like that. Me and him sat in my kitchen for about 4 hours, coming up with the name, coming up with the initial branding, which started off, I mean, obviously our logo.
I don't think I've ever asked you this. Where does the name come from? How come you come up with it?
We went
I
through all
should know
sorts
this,
of
really.
ideas. I think Elemental, if I remember rightly, translates into something like high energy. And we went through loads of ideas. We quite liked the way it rolls off the tongue, Elemental. We like the meaning behind it of the high energy, sort of electric volt is linked to electricity and voltage and things like that. And that's just something we ended up, there was no real science behind it. It was sort of like, that'll do. That sounds pretty cool. It's got a nice meaning behind it. Let's give it
Yeah,
a
it's
go.
good. Sounds cool. Anyway,
We
sorry,
had a
mate, I
little,
interrupted your flow there.
that's all right. And we had a little look around our local. So we both lived near Tunbridge Wells at the time, and that's where me and Greg grew up as well. So from a point of putting our own event on, obviously that meant we could curate the lineup, we could give ourselves some good sets, and we could be in control of what we're doing. So what we did was we went around our local town. It made sense to be in our local town, and one of the biggest things there was obviously the chance of getting people there is a lot higher than if we're going into places that we don't necessarily know as many people. So we went with that to start with. We found a little venue. I can't even remember the name of it now. It's now actually called Tyler's Reggae Bar. So it didn't last very long as the venue it was. I
That
can't
wasn't your
remember what it
fault,
was
though.
called at the time. Yeah, probably was our fault. Elemental finished them off. So we found this lovely little venue. We looked around 5 or 6, and we paid them, I think, a very small hire fee for the space. Obviously, because we had, I think it was about 60 cap, so it wasn't huge. There was another room if we wanted to put another room on, but we didn't at the time. We just wanted to try and get one room as full as possible, get some content, which was crap at the time. A few rubbish phone videos. I mean, we've still got that. I've still got that locked in the Dropbox folders. We booked a little headliner, a fairly local DJ who's been around the scene for a long time and reasonably well known around our parts. And we went for it, and started our own night. It went reasonably well. We sold quite a lot of tickets, and we broke even, which was
It's always a good start.
all right from the very start. It was quite a funny story, actually. We couldn't get the DJ booth where we wanted it, but there was a little cubby hole, like a bay window, and the table that we had just fitted in, but you couldn't get the DJ behind it. So we just went, sod it, we're going to go with it. We got decks on top. Luckily at the time, like Greg had just bought some the 3000 Nexus decks, and they were pretty new at the time. So we were really lucky to have top of the range decks. Another friend of mine, Ben, who doesn't do it so much now, he had been mobile DJing for years and was really into the kit. So he had really good sound and lighting. So we didn't have to pay for any of that. But you couldn't get to the DJ. So what we had to do was we had to crawl under the booth to get in behind it to do your DJ set. You can imagine
Greg's like 6'3" in he as well, so that'd been fun for Greg.
So that was an interesting setup, but it was quite intimate. It was quite small. We all had loads of fun. Obviously, being our first event, we all pulled in as many mates as we could from around the area, and old friends and new friends and partners. And bought Kiz, my partner, she brought as many of her friends as she could, and we just made a bit of fun of it, really.
That's what
and it was great. Absolutely loved it. Stressful setting up the day of and wondering how many people are going to turn up. I think a lot of people go through these stresses with their first event, and every event that stress doesn't change. It just
the work when we can talk about it later on, but the stress of selling tickets and that peak and trough that you get is just a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, especially since COVID, because obviously the way people buy tickets now has completely changed, and the arc of how ticket sales is completely different, and that leaves a massive amount of stress and risk on the promoter, because
you see that a lot now with a lot of festivals now just pull festivals now because they're not sold enough tickets to watch its own face. So,
yeah, and the problem is people buying tickets are late. Quite often you might find that them festivals, if they pull them a month before, may do well, but the risk is too high, especially if you've got massive outlay costs.
So you've got massive acts and massive infrastructure to pay for. It is
massive acts, massive infrastructure.
So what next?
Again,
after you did your little one, then so what next then? And it wasn't a huge amount of time before you were sniffing around Oxted Festival, was it?
It wasn't a huge amount of time, no. So the next couple of things we did, we managed to get in with a guy who's a really good friend of ours, Kieran. Funny story how I met him. I actually saw him straight after COVID. Carl Cox did a massive on the beach return rave in Brighton, and warming up for him, the first act on, I think, was Keek. Many of you will now know. He was called something. He was called Kieran. I can't remember his surname. He was under his own name then. He was just about to start the Keek alias. And I loved him. I thought he was great. Loved his sound. So I reached out to him on socials, just introduced ourselves, and we were doing a thing at the time on the Elemental socials called Track of the Week, just getting a feel for social media and how it worked. And obviously you try different things, you try different trends, and try and get involved in different ways of posting content. And one of the things we did was Track of the Week. So we made Keek's first save release, which was, I can't remember the name of it now.
They're all good. They're all really, really good.
He's had some absolute belters. I'm a big fan of what he does. We made it Track of the Week, and that also kept us talking. And what we then worked out was that Keek was he wasn't the booker, but he worked very closely with Concord 2 in Brighton, which is a very, very famous club. And I just said, look, can I come down and do a set? Because they were doing a room 2 at the time. Not the best space, because have you been to Concord?
I've never been.
You basically got a big bar as you walk in the door, and then it leads onto the main room. For a while, what they did, and I think they still do it occasionally now, is they'll put DJs in the bar space, but the level's a bit lower. It's quite close to the main room, so you get a bit of sound bleed. But for me at the time, it was great. I sent him a mix, same as most people do now. Just send him mixes out, just chat to people online. Sent him a mix. He booked me for room 2. Had a nice gig, actually. Funnily enough, another story. That was the very first time I met our good friend Dan Hayes. He was playing before me on that same lineup.
There we
and
are.
that's how
I
we
thought
became.
you knew Dan for years. All right, okay, cool.
That was the first time I met him. Was in that again. This was all just in post-COVID. Dan was playing before me. A funny story with that. There was, I won't name any names, but Dan played, and then there was another. No, I think Dan was on, and then there was one guy between us. That night they sent the decks in for servicing, and so we ended up with these rotten old. I think it was the old Osmonds, or it was a really old model of 2000s, and the DJ in between me and Dan couldn't mix properly without the visuals of the screen from the newer models, and he was all over the place.
That's a schoolboy error, isn't it? But the thing is, that's a small club. There's been people in massive festivals
doing the same thing, but he was all over the shop. I think he'd had a few drinks as well, which didn't help. So about 15 minutes before the end of his set, he went, "Can you take over? I'm struggling." So I ended up playing a longer set, which was really good. So from that, we went in back to the club and we said, look, we've just started this brand. Can we curate our own night in room 2? Keek gave us the nod, and we basically did It was Sam Devine's tour at that time. She was doing a big tour of main rooms around the country on that sort of size venue at the time. And we got off the chance to do room 2, which was absolutely brilliant because that got us on them sort of flyers on that as part of that bigger tour model, which again didn't mean anything much. There was nothing in it financially for us.
No,
I
but
think we might.
you're in the right places and you're meeting people, and also to be associated with that brand and also on Concord and start to do things and DJing and meeting people is big. Like you could, because what you said, you can send people mixes, but unless people know you, like the amount of mixes you probably get sent now because they're immense, you're like, well, this is great, but I'm not going to spend an hour going through every bloody mix.
Yeah, massive
Actually,
amount.
meeting someone, you're more likely to go, oh, they're cool, they're nice. Unfortunately, that's the way it works, isn't it?
Well, I'll always, and I'll divulge a bit from the story. We'll go backwards in a second, but I get a lot of mixes sent to me, and a lot of messages. And the thing that we have, and I've always said this to people, is with our network between us, we could probably fill that festival lineup this year 3 or 4 times over with really good DJs, great people. Like there's not enough space for the amount of DJs that I want to put on. And the best thing to do is like come to events, come and meet us, come and
100%.
meet the team. You obviously know for years you did exactly the same thing.
Oh, so I did, yeah. So I got to know you because we were on Circus. We were signed to Circus about the same time.
Yes.
I was speaking to Keek because he was signed at the same time as us. I was chatting to him. He said, oh, I'm playing down the thing. So I said hello to you. And he said, yeah, we'll pop down. And that's how we all met.
It was, yeah.
It was
the
literally,
first.
it was literally just to come and see Keek and see you and say hello because you're on the same record label. That was the best
And
thing to do.
that's how we met. And suddenly you think, he's all right. I like this guy.
He's all right, yeah.
Yeah, he's all right. This big lad. So and that's the best way to get to know people and get, from being around years, the backstage vibe, the vibe that we have at any of the events we do, big or small, is always great. We always have a nice time. Everyone's in really good spirits. There's never any trouble. There's never any knobheads. And we like to protect that because the vibe that I think bleeds a lot into the audience and how other people are. If the people on stage are having a nice time and enjoying themselves, that then transpires to the audience, whether that be a 40-cap room or whether that be a 1,000-cap festival.
Yeah, 100%.
That transfers into the whole vibe of what you're doing. So go out and meet people. For God's sake, it's great into the mix, but DJing's not hard nowadays. Most competent
mixing
DJs,
tunes isn't hard, but DJing is difficult. Reading the crowd, but
mixing
that's a whole other podcast.
In your studio and creating an hour mix isn't that hard. You don't get much of a sense for an artist, a person, the artist, and what they're like overall from a message. It's a great intro, but then maybe just drop in, when's your next show? Here's my mix. Have a little listen. When's your next show? I'd love to pop down and meet you guys. Like it's pretty obvious. You know where to find us. Everything's online. It's not like we're hidden away. We're not stuck in the back of some green room. We're always roaming the floor and having a little dance and having fun. Yeah, go and meet people. That's the best way. Where were we? Sam Devine's event.
Sam Devine, room 2, met Keek, Oxted, and then what happened from then?
Then we started a little residency at the Horse and Groom in London, and that was just through a chance message that I saw that they were looking for.
Was that before Oxted? That was after Oxted, wasn't it?
Was it? Can't remember. It was around that sort of time. I think we started that just before.
Okay.
Because you got involved in something.
That was great. That was
Horse
really
and Groom was absolutely brilliant. We were there for about a year, I think, when we had a regular residency. And obviously the Horse and Groom is quite famous for where it's located. It's right opposite the Defected offices. They put some wicked events on in there with some of the biggest names on the planet. MK's been in there and done a set recently as one of the Defected nights. One of the interesting things about that venue, which I absolutely love, is it's actually a protected venue. I think Shakespeare, don't quote me on this because it may be...
We'll have to fact check in a minute.
Factually slightly skewed, but I think Shakespeare used to do some writing in the basement of the place. So it was quite a culturally significant venue. So it got some sort of protected status so that it can't be knocked down. So it's a proper old school East London pub in the middle of Shoreditch with massive high-rise buildings and posh new builds either side of it. And it's just wedged in the middle. It's really old in decor because a lot of the original structure's still there. And it's just a wicked vibe in there. The decks in there were a bit rough when we did it. So you got sort of wedged in the corner behind the booth. But it was absolutely packed most nights we were in there. It's queues out the door.
I just fact checked it.
Go on.
Historical significance. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Henry V, are believed to have debuted at the Curtain, making the Horse and Groom a protected venue with direct ties to Shakespeare's early career. So the basement of it was connected to the theatre that was there before. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
I mean, I pulled that out of my arse. That wasn't a bad go, was it?
That is pretty good and not pretty. It's pretty accurate. Anyway, sorry, yeah, it was cute. There's always queues in that place. It's brilliant. It's a really good
It was
venue.
really, really good fun, and we had a great year there. I'd love to go back and do some more there, actually. There was a change in management after about a year. It didn't quite fit what we were doing. We didn't have as good a relationship with the new management as we did the old. So that just sort of ran its course over time. But yeah, would love to go back and do something there. Maybe some sort of reunion at a big point. We can do a big London party. Yeah, Oxted Festival. Let's talk about
Yes.
that.
So that was the first one. So how did that happen then? Because that's been the actual Oxford Festival. Do you want to explain the festival first? Because it's been going. It's stopped now, but it was going on for a few years. And then how did you get involved in that to start with?
Oxted Festival started, again, fact check, I believe in about 2015, 2014. I think it was
It was a
10
beer
years old.
festival, wasn't it, to start with?
It started off basically the cricket club. It's on the cricket club grounds in the middle of Oxted, which is called Master Park. So it's a park. It's got a tennis club. It's got a cricket club. It's got a football club. And they had a reasonably small clubhouse. Basically, the cricket club wanted to put on a bit of an event where there's some music in the corner. They can bring a load of beers in and all get pissed with their mates and dance around to a bit of music. And that's
Yeah.
how it all started. It was always a charity-based thing. So they basically donate some money to local sports clubs. And they were also, in the latter years, raising money to help with the new hub, which is now built on Master Park. So that's now a great big sports facility for the local clubs to all use, a little cafe, rooms upstairs to do events in, things like that. So it started as this little beer festival, and over time grew and grew and grew and grew to what it became up to its final year in 2024, which was a massive festival with Ella Henderson, example, headlining. We had Judge Jules in on the Saturday night. We had GW Harrison, Second City. And compared to what it was to where it got to, it was completely different. So that's the basis of Oxford Festival. It just grew from nothing, really. Just a bunch of blokes down the cricket club wanting
And
to
if you
get
can
some
think where
beers in.
Oxted is probably about 15 miles outside of like London, central London.
Yeah, so it's just outside the M25, so
Yeah.
that sort of gives you an idea of where it's at. And it's very well train linked, Oxted. So that's one of the big bonuses that it's got in terms of location. And the site itself was just 2 or 3 minute walk from the station. So you can
Yeah,
get
yeah, it's
really
good.
well connected into London. You get really quite a decent way south. You can get up from Brighton, you can get up from further southeast, Southampton way. It's quite well connected as a hub. So although as a town it's quite small, and I'm sure this is how a lot of festivals end up growing from small little, I mean, look at Glastonbury, it's in the middle of nowhere. But it was well linked and well positioned to grow something there. So I became aware of the festival, I think I think I was actually booked to DJ it through someone completely different, not directly with the festival. The year it got cancelled for COVID.
Right,
I
okay.
think that was the first time I ever became aware of it and what it was. And at the time, they were advertising the dance stage as a smaller stage. It was sort of in a little stretch tent, and it was really chilled vibes during the day, almost like a bit of a VIP vibe to it. Sort of tables in there, chill like you're in an Ibiza beach bar sort of thing. Bit
Yeah, yeah.
melodic, bit disco housey, that sort of vibe. And obviously there was the COVID years that got cancelled. So what I did, obviously realizing that it was quite close to where I'm from, I just dropped them a DM straight up when they announced the first festival after COVID, just to see if I could A, come back and DJ, and B, also we'd started this events brand Elemental. Would there be any chance of us doing a night? And they came back and said, look, this is just obviously the social media channel, but here's an email for someone called Nick. Drop him an email and he might be able to help you. He does all the dance music stage. So I followed that up with an email to Nick, and he came back. It took a few tries because he's a very busy man. And he came back and said, look, come and meet me. There's a little bar right opposite the station, right near the site, called the Ginistry. Come and have a beer. Let's have a chat. So me and Greg went. We both met there together, and we met our wonderful friend, Nick Emmings, for the first time. We will get onto Nick more later because he sadly passed away last year, and I'd love to talk a bit more about him and his involvement. But
100%.
that first day, we basically just sat there and drank beer with Nick for a few hours, talking about music.
That's always the best way to do it.
Yeah, getting to know each other and finding out about each other's life and our love of music. And he very, very knowledgeable man on dance music.
Absolutely.
He was, I think, mid-50s at the time, still going to Ibiza 3 or 4 times a year. Then he's in ski resorts all through winter season, chasing the outprey and skiing around mountains, and really into the scene, really into the dance music, and just love music. I mean,
Yeah,
the
yeah, definitely.
the way he approached life and having fun at that age was just fascinating to hear about. And we got on really well. There was just when you just gel with people.
Yeah, 100%.
And he liked the idea of what we were doing. So we sort of walked out of that meeting with him going, why don't you just come in and run the whole stage for the weekend?
That's not bad, is it? It's not a bad result for a couple of
Yeah, I
beers.
remember going home to Kiers and saying, I think we've just got a festival stage. I was a bit
As you
like,
do.
I didn't really know how we'd done it, but we just got on with the guy all through a small chain of events, a few messages, going and meeting someone, and having a nice time with him. And I'm very for that in general. If you think about the overall picture of, obviously there's a lot of meeting, there's a lot of chain, and there's a big online culture now of meetings. I love going and meeting people, go and have a beer with someone, go and have a drink with someone, go and have a meal with someone and actually sit face to face and bond with people. Right, and
So,
that goes back to what we were saying earlier about, yeah, it's great to send a DM, send a mix, wonderful. Go and get to know people. If someone likes you, they're more likely to book you. If you get on well with someone, whether that be a venue or whether that be a promoter or whether that be other DJs, you might meet someone that you want to do an event with. You might meet a promoter
yeah,
that
yeah,
loves you and suddenly is going to give you a resident. You just don't know what's going to come of their meetings.
definitely.
You don't get that connection by sitting in your bedroom sending off DMs. It's a great starting point. Yeah, so back to that, I
So
was
what
a
did
bit.
you add to I'm not being rude here, but what did you add to it? Because it sounded like because there was a small, obviously you're passionate about it, and you
So
brought
I
your
think at the
knowledge to
time,
it, and then
Nick was Nick had a big drive because his son Seb was obviously a DJ and musician, and he was very well known in the town. So and because he loved the music and loved the scene, I think because he'd been doing it for quite a few years at that point, he was maybe getting a little bit. It's quite a job. There's quite a lot to it.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
finding the DJs, obviously agreeing the fees, managing the stage, because it didn't just come with a case of find a few DJs, stick a flyer out,
I know
and
it's a pretty much a 3-day event, isn't it?
it's a 3-day event. We were there on site from setup from Wednesday. We were doing all the social media for our stage. I think he just lacked a little bit of energy at that point or enthusiasm for it. And I think because we got on so well, he could see we were excited about what we were doing and what we were starting,
Yeah,
that piqued his interest as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It definitely I felt like he gave him a bit of energy for it. I think because he was so
it gave
involved
him a
still.
bit more energy for it. We got
Yeah,
on really, really well in general, and it sort of renewed the interest in that space. It had a really good reputation anyway. It was sort of like the hidden gem of the festival at the time, and some of the videos that he sent me from previous years, it got a great little crowd with a great little vibe, and it was almost a case of with that renewed energy, we could potentially take it bigger than it was.
yeah, yeah.
So we went from that was a big eye opener for me because suddenly then I went and sat my first meeting with the festival team. Now, the thing to know about Oxford is it's not a traditional festival team. You haven't got there's no corporate at the top and a big team of full-time staff that you get at a lot of
Yeah, it's a
massive festivals.
community-run festival,
It's
isn't
a
it? Yeah.
community run festival. There's a lot of volunteers involved. Even the owners of the festival have got day jobs as such that they're busy during the week. And this was their, because it all grew from the cricket club, this was their event that they enjoyed putting on every year and enjoyed being a part of and raising money for the community. So it wasn't like I was suddenly dumped into a corporate world. They were all nice people, got on really well with everyone. But that gave me a real insight into how running a festival like that could work and what is involved.
That's a pretty good step, though, like from running like smallish nights, getting involved in that by it's a bit of perseverance and then getting on. And also because they've been involved for the years and got the committee, you're getting a bit of mentorship doing it as well. It's a bit of a safe space to do it. Because I don't know if we can talk about the finances involved and stuff, but you weren't forking out hundreds of thousands of pounds for your first festival. You were working with them with a specific budget and working closely with them, which is quite
It was a
like a
really
unique
safe
position.
space to do it.
It's a really unique position to be in, to be honest, I
Yeah.
think.
So they basically, I can talk a bit about the finances. So at that early stage, they basically had a budget for the stage for artists. We had to work within that budget. They wanted to see some sort of headline act for each day. Obviously, the budget didn't stretch to massive names at that time, but that was under that safe guise of there was very low risk in terms of what I was doing. My side of things. It was more my energy and my work rate that was needed,
100%. Yeah,
not
yeah.
putting in that risk of I've got to front 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever it may be. I've got to put my neck on the line for contracts that I might have to pay money back if this fails. It was a really safe space to start. And I was really lucky to fall into that situation. I don't believe obviously you make your own luck. I fully believe that you need to put yourself in them situations to get that
Yeah,
luck.
you're the one that sent the messages to him to see if you could do it, and you were the one
Yeah.
doing the stuff
And there's
before.
them things have got to fall into place at the right time for that to happen. But it was a really safe space, and I'm really fortunate that I got to go in. I got to take Joe in with me as well on the design for our stage. So their branding side of things wasn't great at the time. They used to do some basic flyers. Again, it was volunteer led. They used to do a basic flyer for the main stage, and then they'd put a bit in the corner previously about the dance stage. There'd be Seb Emmons and a few others, and a little live band set, and that would be that. So, but they also gave me the creative freedom to go in and effectively do what we wanted with it. So actually we could expand that and go, no, let's do our own flyer, Elemental at the Oxted Festival. Let's put a decent lineup on all day. Let's try and create a weekend that's bigger than they'd ever done before in that space within the budget
Well,
they've
that's the
given us.
point as well. So you keep saying it's a safe space, but if you'd had not put the energy in, not worked closely and got on well with Nick, it wouldn't have worked, and you'd be booted out in your ear.
Of course. Yeah, of
Because
course.
your knowledge of the acts, the people you had, the contacts you were making, the time and effort you were putting to make it. Like, I mean, people can go online and look at the festival videos. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
So, and it did build like every year. It's building and building.
yeah. So that first year, so thinking about headliners, budgets weren't great. But there was two obvious places I went. We curated a really nice lineup of people that I knew throughout the day. I really tried to think about how the day flowed and talk to the artists about what we wanted. I'm very conscious when putting events on of days flowing right, and that you don't the energy and the vibe and the mood and the type of music being played flows well and runs really smoothly from lunchtime when you kick off right through to the evening headline sets.
Yeah, you don't want 135 BPM
No, and I
tech
try and
house.
relate. There's a balance there in my eyes of I want people to have freedom to come and play what they want and to enjoy themselves. Also, most people that we book understand that, and they're
Yeah,
very good
totally.
DJs, and they understand the purpose of warming up an event or warming up a festival and getting it to where it needs to go. But I was very conscious of that. I was very aware of what I wanted and how I wanted that day to look. Now, so I'd plan the days like that, and then it was all leading up to the headline acts, so that year, and again, it was tapping into people that I knew or that I'd seen that I thought were good energy and that would work within budget. And it was a really difficult thing, actually, thinking about when you've got a budget for a headliner, but it's not that big. And you've got to, obviously, you write down all these dream names of who you think you might get. And then you start reaching out to agents, which I'd never done before.
And one thing I've seen you working with not providers, that's my day job stuff, what we call businesses, and also with acts and artists. I think because you've been there in a day job, I'd say you're quite good at haggling with people, which I think you need to.
That came really naturally because of what I've done previously. A lot of my previous job was curating everything from materials to event supply to site supplies and haggling contracts. So that part came really naturally.
Because some
The
people
big
don't, obviously, it's at the start, people don't have a business mind on. I know you do it because we love it. It's got to wash its own face as well if you can. Otherwise, you could be in debt all the time. So some
well, yeah,
people go and put an events on, going, I tell you what, we'll get this big headline. We've never run one before. We'll put loads on a big venue. That's if they're allowed to get it or not. And then they do it, and then they're in the red before they start.
yeah. Yeah, one of the biggest learning curves at the start, talking to agents, was what you mentioned earlier, was they're not hidden costs. Unless you know and you've done it once, you suddenly think, "Oh, shit, I didn't realize that I was paying this and paying that and paying that." Because in my head, I'm thinking, I want that DJ. I've got a budget of £1,000. Brilliant. Can I, and you naturally Google, Instagram, let's look at this act. How do I find, oh, okay, most of them, if you go on their Instagram, there's a booking agent there. That's your, that's your point of call number one. Go on their Instagram. There's normally a booking agent management email. So for booking agent, it's going to be things like booking them for shows, booking them for tours. Then you've normally got a manager as well strapped to that Manager will be more dealing with the logistics of their career overall. So if you want to do collabs with them, if you want them to come and feature in ads and things like that, anything to do with the general music side of things or the back of house is their management. If you want to book them for your show, you're going straight to their agent. Um, One of the things you might see sometimes is they might have 2 or 3 different agents, and they will be for different territories. So you might have a big UK act might have a UK-based agent. They might have could have 4. They could have a European agent, they could have a US agent, and then they can have a rest of the world agent. So the bigger acts really are run by complete teams. And that's just about them having the best placed person in the best placed area. Obviously, a really experienced UK agent is not going to have as good a knowledge of, say, Asia. So they'll pick out agents for certain territories to run their bookings in a certain space, and they all collaborate together, and the bigger names obviously then create a whole year of gigs from this agency. So that's the basics of finding an agent. And very basically, to start with, it was a case of, we like this artist, give them a little, can we book so and so, what's their fee, was my very first question.
Yeah.
And
And then the first thing they go back is, what's your budget?
what's your offer? That one absolutely threw me when that first came across. I didn't have a clue, mate,
No.
really. It was a case of,
Well, no one does. No one does, because let's be honest. If you're getting 20% off of someone, you'll want to try and get the maximum price out of it as possible. Not all of them are like, because this is unfair to agents. They do get a bad rap, because some of them do generally want to start working with brands and develop a relationship. It's the same with makes about other people. If they're nice people, you want to work with them. So, like, most agents are decent humans. They're all right, but some will really try and take the mick.
yeah, it's a really difficult situation to be in, because that line, what's your offer, I found really difficult to go with, because obviously then suddenly that puts the ball in your court. And in most things in life, you go, how much does it cost? And they go, that's £1,000. But great, I'll pay it, or I haven't got that, I'll offer you 800 quid. They go yes or no, and that's a really simple way of negotiation. You know that from your industry, and I know that's quite a basic model for how the world works. That was quite a new thing for me, is what's your offer, and even down to the detailing that they require at that stage. So most of the time, you'll get a form if it's an agency or even an individual agent. You'll get a form sent over, and they'll ask for loads of information. Again, this was all new to me, and I was like, oh, crikey, I didn't think it would be. I thought it'd be a simple email of, yeah, here's Joe Blogs, and we want £1,000 for you to book him. Job done. Great.
So when you do have relationships with artists and they trust your brand, then that does tend to happen. Like now, you could just start sending emails to people. You won't have to fill out War and Peace. But if they don't know you, they don't know the brand or the festival, then they've got to look after our artists, and they got to make sure they get enough information as possible to judge how
Absolutely.
much it costs.
And it makes complete.
Because when they say what's your offer, yes, there's a bit of like, we're trying to find out what your budget is, but they've got to work out. An artist will not necessarily want to get the most, but they'll try and work out how they can place themselves within that. Because if it's Creamfields, right, and they're playing to 10,000 people, that's very different to pay a 500 capacity club that they might just want to play and they love. So they've got to take all that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that as artists ourselves. Every show offer that we get and you get, probably you think the same thing. Value is not just in a number.
Yeah, yeah.
Value can be a multitude of things. We, for instance, Deep Fiction, I don't know, it'll probably be done by the time this goes out, but this Saturday we're playing at a laundrette in London with some really good friends of ours. And instantly we go, that's really cool. It's really well decorated. It's a little pop-up event, and we can film it and we can have a great time. Whereas if someone messaged us from a club we don't know down in Cornwall, can you come and play my venue? Again, how much are you? They're very different propositions. In my view, there's got to be what's in it for us as well determines the value of how we value that set, and it goes right up to the top.
That's a really good point. We mentioned this with a curry the other night about the value element, isn't it? It's not just money.
No,
It's not
there's
just
a lot.
about
There's a
the
lot
money.
of value, and I was listening to. I think Example was on a podcast, and I can't remember which one. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Example was on a podcast and talking about Glastonbury, and he was saying the fees for Glastonbury are typically, from headliner to the bottom, are typically around a third of what they'll normally get for a traditional festival. Because
Yeah, yeah.
Glastonbury have that power of people want to play Glastonbury, they want to
Yeah.
be at Glastonbury. So
Yeah.
that gives them that purchasing power to go, no, fuck you, you're not getting your full fee. You're getting a third of it, or close to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
that's
they've seen a massive increase in streams and sales and ticket sales and all sorts. So
yeah,
they'll
exactly.
know that they know that's a showcase for them. So they'll get the extra stuff after that.
Yeah. And that going back to that first year of booking the headliners was a really tough thing for me that was quite a tough learning curve because actually at the time we didn't have much to offer in terms of a proposition. So we were a small stage, a reasonably small festival in a town that most people haven't heard of, and we were going out pitching to acts for headlines. Now, interestingly, the Friday night we booked Keek as our headliner, which was the first time, obviously, I realised that actually the first place to look is within your network and people you
Yeah,
know.
totally.
He was doing great things at the time with his early string of releases as Keek on some brilliant labels like Saved and Circus. He was a good friend of ours. Obviously, we built that relationship from chatting online to doing events with him at Concord. We got on really well with him. We did a deal with him, obviously, personally, privately. He came and headlined night one. And then night two, we ended up booking Ellie Cox for our
And how did that
headliner.
happen?
How?
Yeah.
So I knew she was a part of the Abode sort of crew, but I'd never actually seen her DJ. But I went to. Do you remember they did the events in the street through London for over COVID, out the back of
Yeah.
trucks and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
I went to one of them, and there were big trucks, massive trucks at the front, which had a lot of big name artists in. Like I think Salada were in there, Eats Everything were in there, Sam Supply was in one, but it was so busy, and obviously being COVID, I was with some friends, and we actually dropped back a couple of trucks because they had smaller versions dropped around. There was this little, it was an old Land Rover and it had been converted into a DJ booth. Suddenly there was this guy DJing in there, followed him for about an hour, wicked guy who actually played for us a few times since. I can't remember his name, but I'll get it for the next episode. And straight after him, Ellie Cox walks in with her brother Billy and did like a 2 hour set driving past the Houses of Parliament. And it was absolutely brilliant. I loved her energy. She was really good fun. She was playing some wicked tunes. And I thought, yeah, let's have a go at that. Thinking in terms of one, what we could afford, two, artists that might be interested in coming. I knew she was local as well. Artists that might come down and play for us, and agents that will actually talk to us, because that's another story. Getting a reply from an agent sometimes, if you're small fish compared to big fish, can be quite tricky. So again, we went to her agent, did the offer thing. One thing we did play on, and I did sort of learn quite early with that festival, because it's so charity and community based, that has a big effect on negotiating with artists. If they're local and there's a lot of community element to it or charity element. So say you're putting an event on and you're doing, which quite often happens, say you're putting 10% of profits or 20% of profits or ticket sales to a charity. Always mention that if you're booking an artist. That's a big factor because that leans into that human element of what you're doing and what they're doing and what they're trying to do. That can end up being favourable for you in terms of that negotiation. So we ended up with Ellie Cox. I think we paid about 1,500 quid for Ellie for year one, which at the time I think was probably too expensive. Looking back now, what I've learned over the years, but also going back to that element of value compared to what we were to what Ellie was at the time. We didn't have much value to her other than, can you come and play for us?
Yeah.
And it was it was within our budget at the time. So that it worked, and we went and did the festival and we had a wonderful time.
It was very good. It was very good. And
It
then
was
what
very, very
happened?
good.
And then what happened after that then? Because it kept going for another couple of years, didn't it? Because I played a couple. And
Yeah.
then,
So I'm just going to touch a bit on that festival. That was a really, really good insight into working with tech teams and setting up an event, and actually how we set up the backstage area, how we set up, sound check everything, how we test everything, how we set up the space around it. That was my first experience of that as well. And working with Nick in the run up to that also taught me quite a bit about social media and the origins of that, and doing the camera talking side of things and trying to promote your brand other than sticking a flyer online and
yeah, it's more personal, isn't it?
please come to my show. I've never done that before. So that was quite a daunting thing. And that's one of the things. I mean, we had this conversation the other day when we were doing some filming at our new venue. And you said, oh, did that really well. That came quite natural when I did some speaking.
Yeah.
It wasn't 5 years ago.
It's work, innit? It's like anything. If you practice
Yeah,
enough of it,
you
it
just
comes.
naturally.
There was a lot of info to remember. You got it all out in like 2 takes straight away. It was pretty good. That's why I was impressed with it.
I can normally rabbit on shit quite well, but occasionally it goes a bit wayward and we end up doing about 10 takes. But yeah. So yeah, massive learning curve. But actually that tent that weekend right from Friday through Saturday night, was absolutely packed. I mean, you came on Friday when it was just absolutely rammed. And it was
It
slightly
was.
bigger than they'd done before. It did really well. What they did in there, obviously, because I mentioned before that it was, I think daytime it was more of a chill out section, they put a bar in there and that carried on. And actually, the bar in there, the year we did year one, did better than it had ever done before. So that was kind of a measure of, obviously, it looks great visually, but a lot of the way they structure these things is based on numbers. And that was our biggest barometer of, have we improved? Yes, we've improved on what
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
done before. So the bar did well. We put on a great show. And that put us in a really, really good position to go back and say, look, we want to go again, but can we go bigger in terms of tent size? And can we have a bigger budget for artists? One thing I will say about year one, actually, is we went over budget on that. I think we went about 300 quid over budget. I think that was Greg's fault because he'd actually met.
Blame what? Because he's not here. Blame him.
No, I tell you why that was Greg's fault. He paid it himself, bless him. So, but he basically met on a course, Codework, the DJ, and got on really. Again, this is another thing about connections. Met Codework on a course, got on really well with him, and went, "Look, do you fancy coming down and playing our festival?" Obviously, we'd already booked Ellie Cox, we'd already booked a videographer, we'd booked other things, and we bought a sign, which actually is this sign here. This sign was bought in year one of Elemental Festival, and we put it in front of the stage because that was it at the time visually. We had a table, decks, and that sign in front, and it used to flash, but so I've got a remote, and now where it's been through the
It wasn't
ringer,
because I broke it in that pub, was it?
possibly, quite possibly, that was the end of it. So now I can change the color, but it used to flash and dance around. So that was our first ever experience of getting some sort of visual on stage that advertised us as a brand. So yeah, year two, we basically went back to them and said, yeah, we want a bigger budget. We want to put some bigger acts on, and we want you to put us a bigger tent in. And they came back, obviously, with the bar spend and the attraction of people there and ticket sales from that
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
They invited us back to do it again, and they gave us more money,
Brilliant.
and they gave us a bigger tent, a bigger sound system. So we were on for year two, which was great. Interestingly, year two, we didn't actually go down the big headliner, which was, I thought we were going to at the start, especially when we were given a slightly bigger budget. But what we did in year two, which I think changed the dynamic of changed our understanding of what we were doing actually slightly, was one of the things that I noticed or thought about was, although in our world, in the music world, so you put Ellie Cox, you put Keek in, we know exactly who they are, we know what they do, we know where they've come. The market that we were in at Oxted was not a traditional dance music market. There's young ravers there that are within the scene, and they'll go raving in London, they'll go raving in Brighton, they'll follow certain artists around or certain brands around. There would have been people there who have been to Abode. I mean, Abode was everywhere at the time, and it would been one of the dominant brands for a number of years. So a lot of people within the dance music space would have been aware who Ellie Cox was because she was quite a staple on their lineups at the time. Also, a big chunk of that market in Oxted and in that area was older crowd, ravers who maybe used to go out in the 90s. Kids have grown up, they're coming back out now and also coming raving with their kids. And
Yeah, yeah.
actually, they're going because of a feeling and because of they want to go out and have fun and they want to relive them days. And actually, they don't really care who's DJing as long as the music's good. So that was one thing that I really noticed from year one. And that was I watch crowds a lot, and I try and watch clientele and see how they're reacting, and especially between DJs.
What was the
And it's
lineup then on the second one? I can't remember.
so in
I
year
know I
two, and
played
I'd
it with
have to
Dave.
go back to the flyer, but year two, one of the things I wanted to do was actually build a stronger, what I'd call mid-level lineup, and really get involved some more people that we'd met within the industry that I really liked that were up and coming. It was also probably the first year that I lent into sort of helping people that helped us. So we had Ellis Moss come down, our good friend Luke, and we've been working with Luke in the studio, and he'd been helping us with our music production, our mix downs, and we've been learning a lot from him in the studio at the time. And
He's a brilliant producer and a brilliant
he's an
DJ.
absolutely incredible producer, and he's gone on to working with some of the biggest names in the planet now. But that was one where you meet someone, they're helping you, you're working alongside them. And that was that sort of thing of, well, you're a good friend, we're working with you on this, come and work with us on that. And that sort of gives it's that you're helping your friends out who are helping you out system. We also booked Tristan Ingram again. So that was the first year he came to festival for us. Obviously, we booked him for the little local bar for our first event back in a couple of years earlier. So he was on that lineup. I honestly would need to look back through it and see who was on that lineup, but I'll get that. We'll pull the lineups up for the next episode and have a good look through it.
Good idea.
Because that'd be quite interesting actually to talk about my thought process and our thought process of how we put them lineups together. Because I think there's certain ways that you curate a lineup when you've got that much time across sort of 3 days. There's a lot of thought process that goes into who comes in, why they come in, and what times they go. So that'd be something really interesting.
I think we're also good to talk about a third one, and also the when it was stopped, like how you because that then obviously led into Elemental's own music festivals, and we could talk
It
about
certainly
that.
did, and
also
that's the reason, obviously, why we're here and doing this podcast is to talk about this year's festival and all of this stuff. Every little bit of it, right from going for that first meet, it's all little learning curves to why we ended up taking that jump last year to do our own festival. And all them nerves it's the same nerves as when you're doing that first event to 40 people.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Suddenly you're putting another event on your own, but you're trying to get 1,000 people in the field. The nerves aren't any different, just the goals stepped up slightly.
It does, but then it's I think that'd be good to talk about the next one. I think about how you did that, why we did that, but also you need to finish your step one and stuff as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do a little bit of a dive.
Even with the weather and stuff, I mean, like it's because talk about the weather. That's really important for UK festivals.
Yeah,
worry about that,
especially that last one, and that was a big factor in why Oxford Festival ended up being no more. So, which was a real shame. But we can go right across that last festival and how that weather played a big factor in it. How the weather actually helped us, oddly.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it did. It did make
the
it look
weather
good.
helped us, but really badly affected the festival overall. So
definitely
cool.
But what we could do then, if we could do, what we'll do is we could do another hour, but on that one can be the actual Oxted, the last one, and then with it closing, how you went about finding a new venue. So again, that's quite random, but you knew the area quite well and found it. Then what it took to put your own festival on, because I think we said at the start, doing one in the relative safety with Oxdev is great and growing a brand, but then taking the jump to do it ourselves.
Yeah, there's a big step from losing the home, what was our home for years, for 3 years to go. I think it was 3 years, wasn't it? It was. It was 3 years there. It was them 3 years of doing it under quite a safe net really taught me enough to take that punt and go and do it ourselves.
Absolutely. And then leading on to the big one now. It's a new one, yeah. And then into the new one now. Yeah, cool.
I would also, Lukey, love to talk a bit more about you and your journey at some point. We need to have a history of and then.
You can do if you want, not a problem.
Would absolutely love to.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll do that. Right. So the next one, we'll talk about Oxted Festival, the last one, and then how it ended, how the weather affected it, and then the jump into doing your own festival. I think that'll be quite exciting.
Perfect.
And
Sounds
we could be quite
Looking
honest because I think there's loads of stuff that come up that you thought, oh shit, I didn't think about that or that or that, and I think it'd be interesting to find out.
Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you follow us on our journey, Elemental Music on YouTube, hopefully on Spotify, also on Instagram at We Are Elemental, and also the same on TikTok at We Are Elemental. We're going to be doing loads of these little podcasts, YouTube videos, and loads of content all around our past, and also digging into how you put on your own music festival, how you get to the stage of even having a music festival, and that whole journey. And if you want to learn about it, or if you want to put on your own event, just anything to do with the whole process, make sure you follow the journey, and also buy your tickets for Lingfield Park on the 11th of July for the second edition of the Elemental Music Festival. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the follow buttons, and also we want to hear from you. If there's anything about the whole process that you want to know from us, drop us a DM or drop it in the comments, and we'll try and answer your question over some of the future episodes.